This is Jared Emerson-Johnson. I work for a company called Bay Area Sound. We did a lot of the sound editing and sound recording for the game. A lot of the ambience and a lot of the effects.
And I'm Chris Remo, and you've heard me on commentary before, but on this one I'm speaking in my capacity as, I guess, the audio director on this game, a role that I really did not deserve to have, and basically had to figure out as I was going along. We ended up developing, I think, a pretty close working relationship where we sort of split the sound design duties. It ended up being fairly half and half, probably slanted towards Jared in terms of total work volume.
Although you did you did the entirety of all the implementation, so you were sort of the mastermind of, what we needed and how it should go in the game, and I just kind of took whatever you needed from me and made it. So I was sort of the content horse, and you were the overseer and
Overlord.
The overlord of sound, yeah. Which was great. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that you were inexperienced, but it was smoother than some projects go, and it was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, and you at one point went and did some field recordings.
The sound in the game kind of breaks down pretty evenly between sound effects, which are the footsteps and the interactive parts of the sound where, the player's interacting with objects and things in the game, and then there's the ambience part. And especially in this game, in any game the ambience is important, but in this game that was sort of really where we started and finished in terms of what the sound needed to be in creating this space. And I actually had several recordings I've been making over the past 10 years or so, various other big outdoor national park locations, stuff from Yosemite and stuff from... I've actually been hiking on the Pacific Crest Trail over the past 10 years, which is a trail that goes all the way from Mexico up to Canada. So it's great. So, I mean, really, all of the ambient sound you're hearing is really coming from real wild spaces up in the mountains.
Yeah, and the ambience, man, I think it took us so long to dial in the approach we wanted to take, both in terms of the source material itself and also the way that it was designed and implemented.
Right.
I feel like we were revising that basically until like the last third of game development. I mean, not even just revising, but I would say like fundamentally changing how it worked. And eventually what's in the game now is sort of 3 layers of ambience that are mixed according to, where you are and the needs of the space and so on, plus additional what we called sweeteners of environmental noise, like sort of wildlife and wind rustles and things like that, to give it some character.
This project was really kind of unique in that way, in its relationship with the ambience, because it was such a key part of creating the atmosphere of it. We spent a whole lot of time figuring out how we wanted to sort of differentiate each of the individual sections of the park, and also at what point you are in the story and how the ambience should subtly change. It was probably the most detailed ambience work I've done on, I think, any project I've ever worked on doing this, just because it had to be so specific and subtle, but also evoke really clear tonal feeling across the game.
Yeah, I'm really happy.